Hi, I'm Lena, and welcome to Super Data JP, the channel where we turn Japan's real estate and cost of living numbers into answers you can actually use. Every video here is built on verified government data, not opinions and not guesses. Whether you're planning to invest, relocate, or just curious what life in Japan really costs, you're in the right place. Let's get into today's numbers.
1 in 4 residents of Kutchan, the town that contains Niseko ski resorts, is a foreign national. And land in its core resort district has gone up more than 5.3 times in 9 years. Most of the town hasn't moved anywhere close to that. Third stop in our new city set, and the most extreme version of a theme we've now seen in Hiroshima and Sendai, growth that looks town-wide from a headline, but is actually concentrated in a few hundred acres. This is for anyone eyeing a Niseko chalet or condo as an investment or lifestyle purchase, and for anyone who assumes Niseko land prices means the same thing everywhere in the area. Start with the number that makes Niseko genuinely unusual among Japanese towns. 4,037 of Kutchan's 17,136 residents, roughly 23.6%, are foreign nationals. No other town this size in Japan looks like that. That population mix isn't incidental, it's the direct result of 2 decades of foreign capital, mostly Australian first and increasingly Hong Kong and mainland Chinese money since, building out a ski resort economy from what used to be a quiet farming and hot spring town. Australian skiers were the ones who first started buying land here in the early 2000s, drawn by snowfall that regularly outperforms almost anywhere else on the planet. What began as a handful of lodges has since become a full international resort economy, with capital now flowing in from across Asia as much as from Australia. And the core of that resort economy has seen genuinely extreme price growth. Land in the Hirafu district ran roughly 38,000 yen per square meter in 2017. By 2026, that same land was assessed at roughly 200,000 yen per square meter, a 5.3 times increase in 9 years. That growth hasn't slowed either. The most recent official assessment shows Hirafu land still rising 10.5% in a single year, one of the steepest rates anywhere in Japan, in a year when many regional markets are posting single-digit gains at best. Here's where the headline starts to mislead, though. What does the rest of the town actually look like? Town-wide, Kutchan's average assessed land price is roughly 107,125 yen per square meter, up 7.42% for the year, a real number, but nowhere near Hirafu's. Neighboring Niseko town averages roughly 21,620 yen per square meter, up 13.26%. We pulled actual 2024 land transaction records from Japan's land ministry to check this directly. The median sale price across Kutchan came out to roughly 12,766 yen per square meter, meaning Hirafu's assessed land value runs roughly 15.7 times the price of a typical parcel elsewhere in the same town. Niseko land is booming and this specific parcel near Hirafu is booming are two very different claims, and the gap between them is exactly where an uninformed buyer overpays for a property nowhere near the actual resort core. That's not a small sample either. The transaction records we pulled cover both Niseko town and Kutchan directly, using the same government dataset for every other city in this series, not a real estate agency's own marketing numbers. So what does an actual premium purchase look like at the top of this market? Top-tier ski-in, ski-out properties in the Hirafu core now trade in the 1.5 million yen to 3.0 million yen per square meter range, pricing that approaches central Tokyo, in a town of 17,000 people. For investors, the appeal is the yield alongside that price. Well-managed chalets and condos here can post 6 to 10% gross yields, driven heavily by winter season nightly rates that outperform almost anything else in Japan on a per-night basis. That yield is heavily front-loaded into the December to March ski season, though. Properties that also market themselves for summer hiking, golf, and cycling can stretch decent occupancy across 8 or 9 months of the year. But a chalet that only markets winter ski packages is effectively running a 4-month business with 12 months of carrying costs. None of this happened by accident. It's traceable, year by year, in the town's own tax records. Land holdings by residents of Hong Kong and mainland China specifically rose from 254 parcels in 2014 to 604 by 2020, and roughly 656 by 2021, a steady, multi-year build-out. not a single speculative spike. A demand base built up over a decade by repeat institutional and high net worth buyers tends to be stickier than a market driven by short-term speculation, but it also means the buyer pool you're competing against for prime Hirafu land is genuinely global, not local. Financing follows the same pattern as the rest of this series. Residents with steady Japanese income can often reach loan-to-value ratios of 70 to 90%, while non-residents typically need far more cash up front, at rates closer to 1.0 to 2.5%. Before you get pulled purely by the yield numbers, there's a regulatory story from just last year worth knowing about, and it happened well outside the resort core. In June 2025, Kutchan's mayor issued a formal statement about unauthorized land clearing and construction in the Tatsumi district. Over 1 hectare of forest cleared and graded, plus building work, none of it permitted. The developers were found to be in violation of 4 separate laws: forestry, building standards, city planning, and soil contamination rules, all at once. The town summoned 2 companies and, together with the Regional Government Bureau, is still enforcing compliance. The lesson isn't that Niseko development is uniquely lawless. It's that a hot market with fast-moving foreign capital and a small local permitting office is exactly the environment where corners get cut, and the burden falls on the buyer to confirm permits were actually filed. In practice, that means asking to see the actual building confirmation certificate and forestry clearance paperwork for any undeveloped or recently developed parcel, not just taking a listing agent's word that everything is in order. It's a request any legitimate seller can fulfill in a day. The broader risk is treating any Niseko land as automatically resort grade. A parcel a few kilometers from Hirafu, without ski access or confirmed permitting, can sit far closer to Kutchan's town-wide average than to the numbers that make headlines, and the marketing materials rarely make that distance obvious. The most common mistake is buying on the reputation of a Niseko as a single brand, rather than checking ski access, confirmed zoning, and permit history for the specific parcel, the same discipline this series has argued for in every city so far, just with higher stakes here given the price gap involved. Put it together and Niseko rewards buyers who treat the resort core and the surrounding town as 2 different markets entirely, verifying ski access, permitting, and actual comparable sales for the specific parcel, rather than buying on the town's name alone. Last in this set, Karuizawa, Japan's original vacation home market, a much older, more established version of the same resort town dynamics. A quarter of the population being foreign and land prices multiplying 5 times over are both real. They just describe a few hundred acres, not the whole map. Subscribe for more data-driven breakdowns of living and investing in Japan, and let us know which city or topic you want covered next.
And that's today's breakdown. If you're serious about real estate or moving to Japan, research like this is exactly what separates a smart decision from an expensive mistake. Subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive, and drop a comment if there's a city or word you want us to cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.